already, I think it's almost 200 cameras between Groselet. Half has gone by.
Forensic lab.
And it has not been completed. The forensic lab. When we came into office in 2016, Jerry, if you remember, the forensic lab was what? Closed. And it was closed because there was a structural problem with the building and all of the equipment had gotten wet. We resurrected that from the death, and today I'm proud to see that we've become the first certified forensic lab in the OECS. So it means a lot of the DNA testing, a lot of the ammunition testing that was being done and sent out and taking a long period of time, that can be done now here in St. Lucia to add to the evidence when we're going to cases and to strengthen the DPP's hand in his prosecutions. It is a holistic approach. And we've spoken about the social needs. If you remember in our campaign, 5 for 5, a big part of 5 for 5 was to do what? To help increase the minimum standard of living in this country. Single mothers who were unemployed, that they wouldn't have to be going looking or begging. We were going to pay electricity bills. We were going to pay water bills. We were going to contribute food. We were going to give them the books. Elderly. Our program for sports. So the idea of what takes place at the aquatic center, to have zones of excellence throughout St. Lucia and regularly scheduled sporting events. And that's why the huge investment. When I hear the Prime Minister talk about that we spent $32 million and suggest that we all went to Don Lockerbie, really? How much did Soufriere cost? How much did Denry cost? How much did Micoud cost? How much did Micoud South cost? How much did the Groselet Academy cost? And all of those were what? Examples of what could be done, and then to roll out an entire program for this country. Because you can't say you're gonna make sports important. And why is sports important? And how does it contribute to crime? Because it gives kids something to put their energy into that's organized. And we've seen in Jamaica and other countries that when you have properly organized clubs, that it changes. But I've said repeatedly, what makes the aquatic center successful is that parents are the ones running the administration, not the athletes. Jerry, you grew up with me. When I was on the captain of the national basketball team, we were responsible for raising money to go on a trip. We had to find the money to buy our uniforms. As a basketball player here, we had to find money to have our own tournaments. As a player, I remember standing on the boulevard selling t-shirts to raise money. I remember going to football games and sitting on a box of beer because Heineken would give you some beers to go and sell to raise money. That cannot be. Athletes have to focus themselves on being the greatest athletes. You really believe that Julian Alfred, if she remained here, she would be competing at the international level she is? It's when she went to Jamaica and participated in that competitive league. And I'm passionate about this because if you have a properly run sporting program in this country, Friday nights is where all of your secondary games are taking place. Saturday and Sunday should be secondary games, and Sunday your senior leagues. Think of the economic activity in my own constituency when people were complaining about putting the foot to call you up to ask you why. Isn't that what I was asking the reporter? Why? Let me understand. I said it's not just been on this one instance. There have been successive occasions in which I scratch my head as to what you're doing. But I didn't accuse him of anything. I picked up the phone and I called him. Many of you in this room, I've done the same thing. If in fact you see the facts differently than how I see the facts, I cannot engage into a conversation with the media. Now let us look at what the real facts are. Which government introduced 361? Which government shut down Sky FM? Which government wrote a letter to a newspaper asking that the editor be fired? Which government has defined the media as media terrorist? And if you then want to talk about threats, so you're saying because I said the gloves are off? Well, look, the Speaker of the House said the gloves are off. And not only were the gloves off, he said what? That he's going to use a bazooka. You have a former member of the press, who is now a communications attaché in a ministry, who was recorded, not by somebody from our party. Not only did he threaten somebody, he threatened to kill the person if they didn't repay him the money. And the same prime minister said nothing. You have a minister of government that went to a church and threatened somebody. You found yourself defending that person. That's what I'm saying. You cannot have your cake and eat it. If in fact what you're going to allege that I did was threatening, then show the consistency and show that you have a pattern of behavior that anybody, even that does anything that resembles a threat, that you're going to be so outraged and so egregious, and you're going to show me what you're going to do. But guess what this is? This is protecting the victory. And the main thing in protecting the victory is lies and hypocrisy. I support the freedom of press. I have zero difficulties in having a difference of opinion. I will always, from an evidence-based position, have a discussion with media, and I will always, and hopefully the media welcomes that level of engagement, because it's always coming from a place, and I believe I use those words in the tape, with the greatest amount of respect.
Didn't write that speech.
So,
because if you did,
see how it's like spreading rumors, spreading lies that have been lumped together with domestic abuse and child abuse also. No thoughts on that particular lie?
Empty words. Because again, in the House, the last session of the House, and I'll say the name, and I'm going to say it out here in public. I don't need the protection of the House to say what I'm going to say. Richard Frederick went through what I describe as a character assassination, or an attempt to character assassinate Allen Chastanet. But in doing so, all he did was lie. So you remember, he said that the Darhair Mall cost $50 million. It's not true. Darhair Mall cost $27 million. He said that we sold the entire building for $13.5 million. I said to him, no, we sold the ground floor for $13.5 million. He said we were paying this extraordinary rent that comes up to X number of dollars per month. It's $4. Whatever way you want to cut it, it's $4 per square foot. Right? The average rent in the government system is $5.50. And there are rents that are for $7.50. When that building opens up, if you want to go and rent it for $5 or $5.50, you can do that. That means the government of SaintLucia would recover $1.50. Or the government can replace it with somebody they're paying $7.50 to and save $3.50. He also made allegations, I don't have the whole list here, but a whole series of allegations that were all lies. Every single one of them. So when the Prime Minister makes those kinds of statements, that's what I'm saying. The first place you must look is within his own circle. When he says it, right, is he acting on it? So how do you make allegations of corruption within the police force? When the police force saw, the first thing that you did when you came in was expunge all the records of the persons who were charged during COVID. Yeah. And let's be factual. Was that really to protect all those persons, or was that designed to protect one person, Christopher Hunt? That's protecting the victory. I mean, we have to call these things out and call them for what they are. You then went and said that the state of emergency was not necessary to have a curfew. What planet are you living on? A state of emergency takes away people's civil liberties. That's what a curfew does. It prevents you from going out, which is your right. And the Constitution understands there may be occasions in which that should happen. But in order to allow a government to do it, but still remain accountable, that is why a state of emergency is required, because there are reporting procedures that the government must fulfill in order to ensure that nobody's civil rights are being abused. That's the purpose of it. And we said everything is okay, but once you're going to impose a curfew, you must have a state of emergency. No. Because they said there are people who said that they have a foot on their... And 400 deaths and counting. Who cared? Who put the people first? It wasn't about my popularity. It was about what was the right thing to do for the people of this country. And who did not understand that we have one of the highest rates of diabetes in this country, one of the highest rates of hypertension. And up to today, we know that COVID attacks those people the hardest. And if you did not have a respiratory center, what were you going to do? But all for the sake of winning the government is to make us not believe in our own selves. And that statement is a classic statement that this government portrays. It says one thing, but those things are not applicable to themselves, it's applicable to everybody else. And there's all this innuendo as to who persons can read into who they're really talking about. But yet what they don't understand is the average person in St. Lucia has gone past that. And when they hear those things and they know that that's the hypocrisy they're speaking with, it's more damning. And this government is getting to the point, I'm telling you, where nobody is going to believe anything that they say. That's where we're coming to. You're supposed to have trust. And look at the people they're putting in positions of power in this country. It cannot be about putting people first. It's about putting themselves first. We've said that. We've said that there's no plan. Up to now, when the Prime Minister went to give the speech on crime, there's no plan. Just take a whole bunch of things. We're going to fix up this building. We're going to fix up that building, and somehow it's supposed to pacify everybody. Nobody left that night thinking, wow, there's a sense of urgency, and then following day, I'm going to see it. So when we talk about ROC, what's it called? Restore Confidence. Restore Confidence was a good program. Operation ORC was a good program, badly executed. So what can we learn from that? After we've gone all through what we've gone, how is it we cannot have, right, a no tolerance to crime in this country? But again, you're allowing impacts to remain unresolved. You said you're going to help fix it. All the initiatives that the government was doing to fix that, you criticized. No problem. Do it better. And I want to reiterate that. I want this government to succeed. Because I love this country. I do not believe that United Workers' Party, right, is the only person to be at the helm of this country. I think difference of opinions is a healthy thing. But we have to hold them accountable. Okay?
All right.
Well, thank you, Leader of the Opposition. Thank you to our Facebook listeners, and thank you to members of the press. This has been a press conference on a number of issues. We want to thank you for your questions. We want to thank all of you for coming out. Thank you very much. This now brings us to the end of this very special live broadcast, which we've been able to have on the United Workers' Party and other affiliated Facebook and social media platforms. We will let you know when the next event is coming up, when we will address you, the nation, on very critical matters affecting our country. We thank you very much.